with the same moderator, Ms. Violet Sifutsi from Wairu Commission.
Thank you so much, Chrissy. Welcome. I think this is a very exciting topic because we know that public space is very important in the new urban agenda, and particularly that the new urban agenda is also geared towards realizing the sustainable development goals. And we have had many discussions around public space, including ensuring issues related to tenure, where the cities have to actually give land to public space that can be controlled by the people who live in the urban. We have seen experience from poor informal settlements where we have children, many children living together. They don't have a playground, they don't have where they can interact. We have also had mothers and mothers really talking about space for women, public space for women, how they can access. And we have seen issues related to not just accessibility, but also the safety of the public space. So I think in this session you will talk about this in your experience. Thank you, welcome.
Thanks so much, we're excited to be here. I'm going to be talking about the importance of public space in implementing the SDGs and the new urban agenda. So just how valuable public spaces are across many sectors. Yes, okay. I think you all know the goals. I'm not going to read them to you. I won't torture you. I'm sure you all can read. But in terms of the importance of how public space fits in, so just to remind you, green and public spaces, women and children, different groups are specifically mentioned. And the new urban agenda talks repeatedly about public space. In particular, it talks about some of the advantages that public spaces will give us. So when I talk about public space, I won't say in a minute what I mean, but the importance across different goals that we have for making our cities better. So this is wonderful that we're coming up with all of these ambitious agendas. It's very, very important that governments are coming together to plan these amazing things. But the implementation, let's face it, is going to be difficult. There's an awful lot to do. And what I'm offering you is a shortcut, an easier way to achieve your ambitious goals. So the only way it's going to be possible to deliver what we are promising, what governments are promising, is if we find some of these shortcuts. So I just want to explain today a bit about how public spaces are a wonderful shortcut for achieving what we need to do. So I will go over these in detail. Just in brief, these are the goals, the particular goals that are most relevant, but it's not just these. Public spaces actually will benefit people and the environment in a great number of ways. So particularly in terms of health, well-being, gender equality, decent work, and climate action. So when I talk about public spaces, I am talking about streets and sidewalks, I'm talking about public markets, and places like parks and playgrounds. So these are open, accessible spaces. These are not shopping malls. Shopping malls are private, they are controlled. A public space is a place that is welcoming to everyone and that encourages people to use it in different ways. So first to talk about health, this is my major issue. We know that the non-communicable disease epidemic is growing around the world. It is causing a lot of early illness and death. We absolutely must reduce NCDs. Two of the major risk factors are lack of physical activity and unhealthy diet. Now when we want to get healthy food, we need a source for it. Local markets, local vendors provide us a great source. Supermarkets are mostly selling us unhealthy processed food. Fresh local food is available mostly in markets, traditional markets. And when we tell people, get outside, walk, cycle, you can see it in Surabaya, sure you can see it in many of your own cities. Where am I going to walk? How am I going to ride a bicycle? You're trying to get me killed. So if we want, exactly. So if we want to encourage people to be more active, we can't just tell them, do it. They need a place. They need a reward. And the reward is not, we're going to hand them a nice present, a box of chocolates. That'd be a very bad reward. We're going to give them beautiful, beautiful, safe, convenient places that make people want to be physically active. So they can move about the cities. Children can go to school. People can go to their workplace. You can visit your friends. You can go shopping while getting your exercise. It won't take extra time. Given the congestion in many of our cities, it would take less time if we traveled using active transport. So we get the health benefits, the air will be cleaner. This is going to reward us in many ways. These are the kind of shortcuts we need to achieve our ambitious agenda. So again, with reducing road crashes, how are we going to do that? Cars kill, cars moving at a certain speed. If they hit someone, that person is going to die. Hard to get around those basic facts. What do? We need to lure people out of the cars, off of the motorbikes, onto walking and cycling. Less use of motorized vehicles will immediately result in fewer road crashes. And when more people are walking and cycling, that alone makes it safer to walk and cycle. So we absolutely have to make it attractive for people to use non-motorized transport. We also, if we look at pollution, we know that one of the major sources of air pollution in our cities is motorized vehicles. We can try to make fuel cleaner, we can try to have electric cars. They still pollute, especially if electric cars are run by coal, the electricity from coal. This is not a solution. The solution is non-motorized transport and more public transport. We can drastically reduce our air pollution, and we can reduce that noise. I know you all love the beep beep. We actually don't have it in Surabaya. I live in Dhaka. I think in India also people believe the accelerator doesn't work if you also don't beat the horn. I'd much rather hear the bells of the bicycles. I'd like to hear the laughter of children. I'd like to be able to feel good after I take a deep breath instead of feeling like I'm going to die. We can achieve this in our cities. Gender equality. Now this might sound funny. How are we going to achieve gender equality through better public spaces? Now in really bad public spaces, no. That's not going to work. But when our public spaces are inviting, when they are safe, they are going to offer women a lot of opportunities to socialize, to learn about, to meet their neighbors, opportunities for employment. I just came from the WIGO session on informal workers. Women, men, they need places to carry out these activities. I'll talk more about employment. But as we make it safer to be in public spaces, as we make it safer to walk and cycle in cities, we will have a better situation for women. So I think I missed a slide. Yes, sorry, I missed the slide. So in terms of improving our public space, it's not just enough that we have streets and sidewalks. We need to make them better. What do we need to do? We need to increase the equality of the pedestrian access, that people can walk easily throughout the city. This means wide sidewalks, it means separate cycle lanes, it means zebra crossings or pedestrian signals so people can actually cross the street safely without having to climb a bunch of stairs, which is really annoying. And it means our urban planning has to emphasize mixed-use areas. And when we can also access our public markets easily by foot and bicycle, have bicycle parking, encourage people to use these modes, to use the local markets, we will have healthier societies. So sorry for that little jump. Yes, so again, spaces. Back to gender. So if we have more ability of women to move around safely, walking and cycling, they can be more active in society. So what do we need to improve public space? We need enough space for people to be employed, to sell their goods on the streets, to provide the services. The people who are working on the street need to be able to move safely. Mobile vendors, they're walking through the streets. They They are in danger. We need to make it safer for them, and we need to protect and preserve our local markets. So the next goal, climate change. How do public spaces have to do with climate change? When the goods and services we need are closer to our residences or our workplaces, we don't have to travel as far to access them. This is going to cut down on vehicle emissions. When we buy more local goods, use more local services, again, we are reducing carbon emissions because we are sourcing things locally. And I don't know if I think Shantaji must have just talked about this in terms of Nepal. When there is an emergency, and we're going to see more and more and more emergencies, we need places for people to gather, to get information and assistance to people, and our public spaces provide those places. So we know, again, walking and cycling, fewer emissions, green public spaces, more trees. They're going to take some of the CO2 out of the air. And as I said, when we can access goods locally, we will travel less. So, again, similar things. We need better sidewalks. We need a lot more green space. We don't need to measure it per capita. We need to measure it in terms of the distance from people's homes. That everybody in the city should have an attractive public space within a, say, 10-minute walk. So that I don't have to travel across the city to the one nice park. I should be able to go out my door. My child after school should have time to walk to the local public space. And I should be able to access the local markets easily on foot. Yes, so the main point I want to make, walking and cycling, absolutely vital. If we want to have good cities, healthy people, healthy environments, we want to be ourselves healthy, we want to avoid these disasters of climate change, we need to make walking and cycling priorities as transport along with public transit. Public transit won't work without walking and cycling. We will never make our cities better when we continue our reliance on motorized vehicles. So if you take nothing else out of my talk, please take that. We need to improve our public spaces so that people can really use them. We need to expand and maintain our public markets. We need to actually monitor how we're doing on all of these things. And civil society organizations can be very helpful partners to government in implementing these goals. Those of us from CSOs need to offer our services. We hope that our government partners will be willing to work with us because it's not possible for government officials to be experts on everything. Please make use of the experts out there. I am not Christy Daniel. Christy Daniel's in the audience. Can you wave? She was busy at a press conference, so she asked me to replace her. If you have questions, HealthBridge does a lot of work on livable cities. We're here and happy to answer some of your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Christy. And I'll give the mic to Natalie Tracy.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I'm so thrilled to know that a lot of our areas actually overlap. The FIA Foundation, which is what we're part of, actually believes in safe, clean, fair, and green mobility. Safe meaning that you should be able to walk on the road safely if you're a pedestrian or a cyclist, or if you're in a car. Clean meaning that we should have no air pollution like you're talking about. Fair meaning that we should protect women and vulnerable populations. And I really was so glad to hear you talk about women. And green, we need fuel economy efficiency as well. But I wanted to draw your attention to a report that we actually just released with UNICEF, Rights of Way. It's about children and their right to safe, fair, and green mobility, especially in urban areas and the disparity that we have there, especially among vulnerable populations. So, Deborah, I know that you do some work around children as well, and given that it's a focus of ours, I'd love if you could tell us a little bit more about what you do around children. Thank you.
Thanks for that. We have an active and safe routes to school program HealthBridge supports NGOs mostly in Asia, but also in some countries in Africa and Latin America. The local partners decide what their focus is, but several of them are working on active and safe routes to school. We do this partly because no one can argue against it. No one can say children deserve to be hit by a motorbike on their way to school. Obviously, we need to protect children. They should be able to get to school safely. We all, I think in this room, most of us experience independent mobility as children. We know the joys of it. We know the importance of it. Children study better in school. They learn more about their environment. They're more confident when they can travel independently, and we are losing all of that. So we're trying to bring it back. We want children walking and cycling on their own to school. If necessary, sure, a walking school bus where people walk together. But eventually we would love to see the return of independent mobility. When we make it safe for kids, we can make it safe for everybody. We're also doing, I'll talk more of the Transport Day tomorrow, we're working with young people, getting them excited about making their cities better. I see some exciting things here. We're also doing that in some of our cities, trying to get more young people on board in terms of more teenagers or people in their 20s. How do we get on board, gain our power to make our city the city of our dreams?
Thank you so much. I think we are closing the session. We still have time? Okay, we can get 2 more.
Good evening.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, and my question is about what we say, how we talk, because in the matter of implementing things, make things happen, it is a talk which is very important. How organization talk. I remember a few years ago when I was traveling to China, everybody used to ride bicycle. China was a very environmental friendly country, in advance even. Today everybody has cars, and people complain about pollution. So I think we should be very careful about the words we use and the talk and how we talk, because people could fear, and people would move in the opposite direction, you know. So when you talk, like my example from China, you know. So when we talk about using a bicycle, about walking, don't you think that people would take the reverse way and move directly to the car?
I think yes. I think we need to make it clear to people that life is about choices. And when you choose the motorbike or the car, you are also choosing air pollution and danger and lack of space for everything else that we value. And you're choosing some very high transport expenditures which result in traffic congestion and are contributing not just to the air pollution that's killing us, but to climate change. That is a choice. What are the alternative choices? Well, gosh, there's a whole set of alternative choices that, okay, you give up your car or motorbike, oh dear, big pang, but look what you gain. And we need to talk about what you gain and all of the other things that matter. So when people say to me, oh, but people love their cars, I say, yes, but don't they love their children? Let's look at the toll of death and of disease and disability and kids losing the ability to feel part of their cities. And I think the Netherlands, they said no more child deaths. This is outrageous. Children are dying on the streets. Why? If we really do value our children. I come from the US, our policies do not indicate we do. I hope your countries are better at this. If you really do value your children, you want them to have a full life growing up and not to worry about them getting run over, we can do better. We need to make those choices more explicit so people can decide, is the car more important or is everything else that matters more important?
Okay.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Here I want to ask how to encourage the street vendors in the street, because we know that I've seen in my city that the government pushed the street vendors to be relocated to the more modern market and malls and others. So what can we do to affect the government to change the policy so that the traditional vendors in the street can be preserved? Thank you.
We need to fight this idea that modern means shopping malls and high-rise buildings and elevated expressways. Why is that modern? Why is pollution and traffic fatalities and making it difficult for people to earn a living considered modern? If we want to have civilized modern cities, we have to look at places like Western Europe, places that encourage walking and cycling, that understand those are liberating, those are modern, those are what we want. It is not modern or civilized to remove job earning opportunities, for the poor. That is being a barbarian. You are making it impossible for people to survive. That is not a sign of a civilized society. We need to make it very, very clear. It's not just that we personally love shopping from the vendors. They're great. We love it. We love the local goods. But also, they have the right to earn an income, and they must be given that right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madam. Thank you.
Thank you so much for our speaker and moderator.